Here with John Ramdeen and Robin Black as we are inching closer to UFC 202 on Saturday night, and certainly Wednesday's press conference. I think as expected, guys, coming out of that, the bottle throwing was going to get a lot of attention. It did. Did it add something to this fight for Saturday night? Did this get the publicity that a press conference is designed to do, or was this a black eye on the UFC?
There's no way this is a black eye. I mean, you look at it, this is a press conference that happened 3 days before the event. It was all by design. Nathan Diaz, Conor McGregor not showing up until later on in the press conference. Nathan Diaz getting up as Conor's speaking, bottles being thrown. Nathan Diaz, Nick Diaz, they understand how to sell fights. They're not looking for titles. All they want is the biggest fights imaginable. And the way you do that is at a press conference, you throw a bunch of bottles, you have your team there, and it's going to make it to Sports Center. And Nathan Diaz gets points on the pay-per-view. Conor McGregor gets points.
Which will offset their fine.
Yeah, well, I don't think they care.
Grown men acting like children, and then grown men acting like children, watching other children, responding to nonsense. I mean, it's kind of sad, really. The martial arts is a beautiful thing, man. Sport in general, competition in general. We're looking for greatness in humanity. We're looking for what people are capable of. And this argument that, oh, well, we just got to sell some fights and we just got to make some money. Really, at any cost, no matter how stupid we end up looking, no matter how, it's on Sports Center, great, because you guys look like tools, you know, and I think it's bad for fighting.
But when you look at, the different fighters that are in this game, there are many respected guys that would never go out and do this type of thing. But there are also ones that leave the sport penniless. And Nick Diaz, there's an interview with Nick Diaz, said, I've been in so many fights. I fought 50 times. I've had X amount of fights for so many years. My body has taken damage. My brain has taken damage. There are many fighters that go through that and don't have a nickel to show for it. Nick and Nathan Diaz are both, instrumental in the martial arts community. They're revered by you and their peers. In order to leave this game with the biggest chunk of change, you say, I'm not surprised, motherfucker. And you go and you throw some bottles and you get to leave the game with a boatload of money because, it's not just about martial arts. It's martial arts entertainment.
Yeah, and singers can show their boobs and...
Which is what's happening.
Yeah. I mean, but is that good? Do we just go, well, I guess that's just how it's going to be. Brilliant, talented people better show their boobs or act like children because otherwise you won't get on Sports Center. I guess that's just how it is. I guess we're just, we're just going to accept it and go, well, all of this nonsense happens because for some reason our society requires it. I mean, nobody watches the greatness of an Olympic moment until somebody blows out his arm or somebody's wang knocks the bar off the pole vault. Yeah. Who won that? Who got the gold medal in that pole vaulting competition? I don't know, but I sure saw the guy whose wang knocked the bar off. This is where we are. It doesn't have to be this way. The more, yes, this will sell some pay-per-views, but the more we reward this, and the more we pay attention to it, the less space there is to go in and look at what is really happening in there. People don't talk about politics, they talk about weird haircuts and small hands. And people aren't talking about fighting, they're talking about bottles and they're talking about giving the finger. I'm happy that Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor will make a lot of money. I'm really happy for them, but this is lame.
Has your attitude changed when it comes to these big fights? Because this is when they are trying to appeal not to you, not to you guys.
They already have us.
Exactly. It's the person that is going to buy 1 or 2 pay-per-views a year that sees that on Sports Center, that wasn't even dedicating their time to watching a press conference. It was simply, wow, that looks awesome. I want to see this fight. I want to go to a bar with some friends. These are the most fringe fans that are attracted to this, and that's the difference between a pay-per-view that's going to do 300,000 buys versus this one that will probably easily clear 1 million. And that's essentially the cost of doing business, is that the UFC can promote these big fights that a couple times a year transcend just mixed martial arts fans. But then on the other side, you're going to get your weekends of Damian Maia, Carlos Condit. You're going to get John Dodson fighting against John Lineker later this year. So that's the balance we see. I'm not crazy when I watch these press conferences, but if you are selling to an audience that realistically are not looking at just the intangibles of this fight, breaking down, watching Robin's great breakdowns. They're interested in big personalities that are going to have a
and
fight.
Guys that don't like each other. And I understand what you say. It comes down to the combat, to the martial art, to the abilities and the skills of these guys. Well, luckily, they're going to get to see that because eventually the cage door will be closed. It'll just be Nathan Diaz and it'll be Conor McGregor, and they'll get to do those things. And hopefully the fans that just showed up to see these guys, talk a whole bunch of smack, they'll get to see the beauty and the art and fighting.
I get it, but when we saw the late Kimbo Slice fight a guy who didn't know how to fight with a cool haircut, everybody would say, oh, well, this is going to get more eyeballs for the really interesting fights, for the really special artists. This is going to get people to see how incredible Michael Chandler is, for example. It doesn't work. It makes the red-haired guy make a lot of money, and the late Kimbo rest in peace. His family made money, and the promoter made money, but nobody cared after that. And these things don't stop here. The next time there's a press conference and people only throw bottles, it won't get the same attention. It has to go further. We talked about it on 5 Rounds today. The cat playing the piano was only awesome the first time. There's 1,000 other cats playing piano, but nobody watches them. Now it's got to be 50 cats with sombreros doing crazy things while the piano's on fire. And that's where this goes. This isn't, you don't just get upset because it's sad that it colors the water and you don't see the beauty of the fighting. When people who are called media go out and say, this is entertaining, look how crazy this is, they are perpetuating this to the point that we have to light the cage on fire and we have to put somebody in there with a bear and we have to have a press conference where somebody says and crazier and does crazier and crazier things. And the more that happens, the less they're going to watch the fighting and the less they're going to see the beauty of what the martial arts really is.
But Robin, as well, that's your opinion.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who they follow UFC and they buy a few shows a year, and that's what they enjoy. And numbers will dictate that there's a lot more people that will take something from that versus just two great
The
fighters.
honor between Damian
I
Maia
can't
and
wait
Carlos
to see
Condit,
Carlos
yeah.
Condit and Damian
I
Maia
agree.
next weekend, but that won't have a fraction of the publicity and the attention that this Saturday's
I
fight
do
will.
see that. I 100% see that. And people, I'm not judging somebody who finds that entertaining. That's their right. What I'm judging is the idea that if we are selling spectacle, spectacle has nowhere to go but more spectacle. There is nowhere to go but crazier, more outlandish, more rude and more over the top, and less in the spirit of what martial arts competition is. There is nowhere to go but more. We can only go more. We need 2 bears. We need Christians in the pit. That's where it goes.
So how do we change that? How do you stop that? I mean, you're trying to, as we keep talking about Damian Maia and Carlos Condit, because we look at those 2 individuals as martial artists. They're not going to be talking any smack. They're not going to be creating any controversy. What they focus on is the other guy standing across the cage and their abilities. But make no mistake, there's going to be a fraction of the amount of people tuning into, and that's going to be that's a Fox show as well. It's going to be a fraction of the amount of people tuning into that card opposed to this card because of water bottles.
You and I talked about this on 5 Rounds today. You can't blame the audience. You blame the machine. You blame the people who carry this message. You blame the people who share this thing. It's very easy to get people to click on a listicle. It's very easy to get people to click on, you wouldn't believe the craziest stuff. That grows, but it doesn't last. It doesn't last. It is the low-hanging fruit. It's the way to get the most out of the shortest, but there's no long term in it. And fighting is special, and there will be a long term in it if we take the time to show people how special it is. This takes the time to show people what savages these idiots are.
All right, that is going to wrap it up. As well, we would like to send our condolences to Chael Sonnen and his family, who are going through a horrible time with the passing of their daughter. We want to wish all of our best to the Sonnen family. We are going to be back with our UFC 202 preview show. That is coming your way Saturday night. Tune in at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. It is a full hour counting down to UFC 202 and the rematch between Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor.